Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Claire and it has been a hot minute since we've talked about fun stuff like movies, and I saw a lot of fun movies last year. I saw a lot of movies. I have a lot of opinions about a lot of the movies that I saw last year, so we're just gonna get straight into it because it might be long. I have kind of a order of which I'm going to talk about these things, and first and foremost, I'm just going to talk about the movies that I liked the most, that made the biggest impact on me. That first one has to be Dune 2. I saw Dune 2 opening night with a whole bunch of friends and I was so amped. I rewatched Dune 1 like 3 days beforehand. I've read or listened to the first half of the Dune book, but I stopped where the first movie stopped because I didn't want to get spoiled for the second movie because I liked the movie so much. Even while I was listening to the book, there were scenes that are very similar, but I actually almost unanimously liked the movie version more. I just really liked the way the world was brought to life. I absolutely love the cast and the soundtrack and the visuals. And Dune 2, I mean, I'm not going to get into it too much because every single YouTuber on earth has talked about how incredible Dune 2 is, but it's true. Dune 2 is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I can't even remember the last time I saw a movie in theaters where I was like, this is exceptional. This will go down in history as like one of the best movies ever made. I'm not the only person who thinks that. If you haven't seen it in theaters, I suggest that you make that a priority this week. Like, go see it in theaters. You gotta. But before Dune 2, I would say I saw a lot of duds, and we're gonna get into those duds. But one of the only like shining moments of last year was one I didn't even see in theaters. I was like hesitant to see it in theaters. I was like, there's no way this is gonna be good. So I put it off, and then my family decided to rent it for Christmas, and it was the most obnoxious title in the world. Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Brevity is a virtue. But oh my gosh, what a great time. I liked the Hunger Games. I was not obsessed with it the way a lot of my friends or like my mom was really into it, loved the books. I never quite got there with the original series, although I saw every single movie in theaters, usually opening weekend. Like, I really enjoyed it, but there is something about this one that I think blows the original series out of the water. I just think Snow as a character, who's the main guy we're following, and it's one part the actor and one part the character, that is just so much more compelling. Just that morally gray, twisted, and just so molded by this horrible environment that he's forced to maneuver throughout. Fascinating character study. Honestly, way stronger than Katniss. I was compelled. I was just like, oh my gosh, glued to it. Now, I think there's parts of it that were really corny. I think there were parts of it that were a little too CGI-y. Some of the singing, I actually liked a lot of the songs, but the way that they appeared, I was just like, let's relax a little bit. But I also really liked the structure of the story. I heard some people weren't so into how different the first half of the movie is from the second half. I loved that. I thought that was so brilliant. I have not read the book. I heard that's kind of how it is in the book too. I think it just propelled this movie into being so much more than it had any right to be. All right, and I didn't see it live. I didn't see it in theaters, but New Year's Day, I had a real good time the night before, and I needed to just chill, and I finally saw T-Swift's Eras Tour movie. I'm a T-Swift fan myself, and it was an incredibly impressive show. You know, she writes her own songs, she plays instruments, she's singing live the whole time, and it's like a 3.5 hour, pretty intense performance. I am not into every song. I'm certainly not into every era. I am a folklore evermore girl myself, but even then it was just such a intense, beautiful, you know, exciting production throughout. Even if we weren't on an era I was super into, it was easy to stay engaged. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of new songs that I got turned on to, and you bet I am so excited for the new album. Are you kidding me? So I'm gonna go over these really fast because these were movies that I saw that were good, but I don't really have much more to say on them other than they were good. I saw Godzilla -1. Loved the historical point that that movie was in. Loved the message that it was sending, and I really liked the Godzilla design. I thought that, especially when he was attacking, it was really cool. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And it's not that as if I can't talk more about this movie. It's just like, yeah, it's really good. I cannot wait for part 2. I'm so happy I saw it in theaters. Love the soundtrack, love the animation. One of the most creative movies I've ever seen. One of the best utilizers of animation that I've ever seen. Like everyone else on earth, I can't wait for part 2. This one's a little interesting. It was a A24 Sofia Coppola, her Priscilla movie about Priscilla Presley. This one is odd. It's not what I necessarily want to see again, but I think it did what it was supposed to do extremely effectively. And that was kind of show how Priscilla Presley's being Elvis Presley's girlfriend and then wife was kind of hell and horrible, and being married to the most famous man in the universe at that point was not fun. It was not a good time. It was mostly boring and monotonous and tedious and kind of heart-wrenching. So that's one where I was bored throughout a lot of the movie, but very purposefully so. And I will say one of the best things they did was the casting for that movie, because the actor they got for Elvis was particularly tall, and then the actress they got for Priscilla was particularly short, and it just visually added to the age difference that there actually was between them, especially when he was courting her when she was 14. The first 30 minutes of the movie was like borderline horrifying. Me and all my friends were just like gasping at the thought of this grown man going after a 14-year-old girl. It's a fact you hear, but all the photos you see of Priscilla, she's really older and they're already married, and so you just kind of forget how insane that is. But here's the part that I'm sure we're all excited for. I saw a lot of shitty movies in theaters, and one of them I walked out of, and that movie is Beau is Afraid. Ugh, that movie sucked. That was so annoying. And here's the thing. I did not walk out of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I know some people loved and won Oscars and blah, 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 blah. I hated that movie. I hated it so much, and I deeply regret not leaving it. I thought about it, and then I didn't do it. And then when the movie was done, I was like, I wish I did it. That was such a waste of time, and now I'm just angry because I wasted my time, and I got bombarded with images and scenes and just stuff that I wish I wasn't bombarded with. And I started to get that same feeling watching Beau is Afraid, which I knew nothing about, other than it was the director of Midsummer and that Joaquin Phoenix was in it. So I was like, well, that sounds good. No, that movie sucked. It's one of those movies where it's like everything is a metaphor, and Beau is afraid. So this man named Beau has a severe anxiety disorder, and he's afraid of everything, and everything you're watching isn't really real, and it's just like this heightened experience of extreme anxiety, but nothing's real. Like everything's a metaphor. I don't like movies like that. I don't like movies that I don't have anything to grab onto, to like the reason to actually watch. So once I realized like, oh, this isn't just gonna be like, oh, we're looking into his mind for a little bit, but then we're gonna go out into the real world and have like a real story, like, oh, this is it. I quickly was like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And it's over 3 hours long. So I gave it a good hour, and then me and my friend were like, we're done. And then we read the Wikipedia about what happens afterwards, and we're like, oh, thank God we left. We would have been so pissed if we finished that movie. God. And then poor Joaquin, oh my goodness. So talk about a bait and switch. I was so excited for Napoleon. First and foremost, Ridley Scott has led me astray multiple times now, and I think I just really hate him. Because The Last Duel was also one of the worst movies I've ever seen, one of my least favorite movie experiences I've ever had in my life. But then there's Napoleon, and the trailer looked so awesome, and I was so sold on that this was going to be an epic, cool movie about the saga of this incredible historical figure's life, that I saw it opening night, and it was a total lie. That trailer was a lie. That's not what the movie was. The movie actually was a hit piece against Napoleon, which is bizarre. You could tell Ridley Scott just wanted to make Napoleon out to be this like bumbling idiot, this buffoon of a man, but he's also counteracting these real historical events that Napoleon propelled and that like changed the course of history forever, but also weirdly tried to ignore the fact that he was a brilliant general and a genius and an incredibly charismatic figure. That's why so many of his men and people were like in love with him. You don't have to agree with everything he did, but you really gotta like ignore things to act like that wasn't the case, you know? And this was just an insane anti-Napoleon hit piece. I mean, I didn't leave, so there's that. And it got me really into Napoleon. I went down like a 2-week YouTube rabbit hole listening to people talk about him and Josephine and just all these things that he accomplished. And again, you don't have to agree with it. There was a lot of war, there was a lot of death, but he was clearly charismatic and brilliant. He was a bona fide genius. And this movie was just like, nope, he's an idiot that just like randomly got into his station of power. Like, okay, Scott, whatever. And then speaking of another historical movie that let me down, oh my gosh, just killing me. I did not read the book, but I had friends and family that did. Scorsese was the director, so I was like, ooh, okay. Did I see this opening night too? I'm talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon? Killers Under the Flower Moon? Whatever. I was so excited. I kind of knew the premise. It was like historical event and it's a super interesting time in history, and it was like the case that created the FBI, and I'm always down to see a movie starring Native Americans, and this was just horrible. Horrible. The time period was cool. The main actress, the main native actress, is amazing. Everything else about it is just way too long. When you hear about how the book is set up, you're like, oh yeah, that's a good way to set up a story like this. And the movie tries to be different by telling you basically who the killers are from the very beginning and making a very minor character the main character. That's the Leonardo character, where it turns out in real life he's not a major player. I mean, he does stuff, he does bad things, but he's not the major player, but they focus on him. So you're just watching Leonardo do the same thing and say the same thing over and over and over and over again, and it just goes on forever. And it takes a long time for the FBI stuff to actually kick in, for the actual court case to get going, which to me is like the really compelling, interesting part. Also one of those movies. It's hard because this is a historical event and this is what happens, but I am so tired of movies that star people like Native Americans, which is not something you see depicted very often. I'm a little Native myself, so I'm always excited to like see that, but you know what you mostly see them do? Die and get murdered. That the vast majority of on-screen natives in this movie get murdered. I don't want to see that. That's not entertainment to me. It's one thing to talk about the case, and it's another thing to show these graphic deaths over and over and over again. This last one, man, also a bit of a bait and switch. I was really excited about Saltburn, and me and my friend rented the movie. We did not see it in theaters, and it was kind of funny. So we watched the first 30 minutes, but then we had to go to our friend's house, and we get there and we're like, oh my gosh, we just started this movie. It's so good. It's called Saltburn. It's amazing. Like the actors are really good. It's shot really well. It's kind of this like mystery. Like it's such a good movie. I swear to God, we get back. The second we hit play, it just starts going downhill and we're like, wait, what? Wait, what? What? By the end of it, we were both just like, that was so disappointing and so dumb. And it's such a shame. The actors, great cast, shot beautifully, but it just becomes the most predictable story, the least entertaining mystery. You know, I was really excited about this weird dude, underlying romance, like in this kind of strange location, and it just turned into something that wasn't as smart as it thought it was, and was just so over the top and corny and annoying too. By the end of it, I was like, this is just obnoxious. This has like a tinge of Beau Was Afraid, where I'm like, I don't feel like anything I'm watching is real because all these characters are acting so ridiculous. Nothing feels grounded, and the overall plot, it just becomes like the least interesting things that could possibly happen. For as provocative as it tries to be, it's just the most boring vanilla story imaginable by the end of it. I'm gonna wrap it up with just these are movies that aren't necessarily new or that are just, I don't know, they're just like in a category of their own. First and foremost, let me talk about Barbie. Barbie was so much fun. The phenomenon of the Barbie movie was so much fun. For the month leading up to Barbie, I draw caricatures as my day job, and I made a Barbie sample, and I was constantly drawing little girls as Barbie. The month leading up to, and then months afterwards, any woman you went by, any woman that you like interacted with, you could go, "Hi Barbie," and they would go, "Hi Barbie." And that was so fun. That was so cute. I still will occasionally, like if a woman's wearing pink, I'll like do that on the street. And it's such a cute like point of feminine connection that I really like. Me and my friends threw a Barbie party, and that was purely to like dress up, and we had like little snacks and stuff, and the celebration of this like really girly figure that everybody knows was just really cute. The movie itself was a mess, a hot mess. A script that definitely needed to be worked at, I would say half a dozen more times before being made into a movie. That being said, I had a great time watching it. I laughed multiple times to the point of tears. I cried more than once, and I think Ryan Gosling was incredible, and I thought the Ken stuff was incredible. Do I wish the Barbie stuff was incredible? Yeah. Do I wish it was less preachy? Yeah. Do I wish that we just kind of like celebrated Barbie and just kind of spent more time having fun than trying to mesh like 1,000 ideas together and blah blah blah? Yeah. But like I said, it was just the Barbie experience was very unique as a moviegoer, and just really like, ooh, that was cute, that was fun. I saw, by pure happenstance, 2 Rachel Weisz movies nearly back to back. I think they were in the same month. One I've seen before, one I haven't. The one I've seen before is Agora. I love Agora. I love Agora. I want more movies set in this time period. It's, I believe, 4th century AD. It's based on like a real historical figure and tragedy where Rachel Weisz plays the scientist, philosopher, teacher, and there's just a lot of chaos in the city of Agora because we have the new rising religion of Christianity and then the old religion of paganism, and then obviously kind of where she is with science and not really taking a stand either way and just all clashing together. It's just a time period I love and I think is fascinating, and I wish that there were more movies and media about. If you have any movies or media that is kind of about this time period that's done really well, leave it in the comments below. I haven't seen Troy, I mean, which isn't exactly this time period, but like kind of sort of, and like I saw Gladiator for the first time a few years ago, which was good, but obviously a little over the top. But like, if you guys know what I'm talking about, this kind of like Mesopotamian or Alexandria era, early Christianity, or like just before Christianity starts rolling, like that sort of thing. If you guys know what I'm talking about, leave it in the comments. I am desperate. I also saw a 2018 movie, Disobedience, which stars Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams. And that was one that I saw a trailer for years ago. And so it was always lingering in my mind where I was like, that kind of seems like an interesting movie. It's about this hyper conservative Jewish Orthodox community in modern times. And Rachel Weisz is kind of exiled from that community. You don't know why, but she has to go back for her father's funeral because he was the former rabbi of this community. So she goes back. The mystery slowly unravels of like why she was excommunicated and why people of this community don't really mess with her and she doesn't mess with them. And a lot of it has to do with her relationship with Rachel McAdams. And it was good. I mean, it was a really well done movie. I felt like the third act, it didn't drop the ball, but it wasn't the conclusion I wanted. I don't know what I wanted. Like, I don't have a solution. I don't know how I would rewrite it off the top of my head, but it was one of those where I was like, huh, that was okay, but it didn't quite feel right. It didn't quite feel like punchy enough, or I don't know, it just wasn't what I was hoping for. But it wasn't bad either. It didn't like ruin the movie the way Saltburn's ending ruined that movie. It was just a little lackluster, I will say. They're just dealing with a lot of interesting themes in regards to religion and what it means to stay true to your religion but also to leave. It touched a lot of these things but didn't go deep enough, or as deep as I would have liked. The final movie that I saw that I loved, that I just loved, that actually influenced this outfit is My Best Friend's Wedding, which I'd never seen before, starring Julia Roberts. And I just love this era of movies, this like 80s and 90s rom-com. I don't know what it is, but I kind of know what it is. And a huge part of it is just the sheer charisma of the actors. I feel like the filmmaking style was a lot more relaxed. There's not all these jump cuts. They just kind of like let the actors do their things, because this script is insane and these characters on paper are extremely unlikable, and every decision all these characters are making are bad. And then in theory, done by any other actors, you would be like, I hate these characters and I hate this movie. But by the end of it, I'm so deeply charmed by Julia Roberts, and then especially whoever plays the gay best friend. I was just like, I love them. I love them. I want them to be happy. I love this world where people just are constantly breaking out into musical numbers. And it just got me into like wanting to wear power suits. So those are some movies that I saw within the last calendar year or so that I really liked or really didn't like, but they made an impact on me one way or another. Let me know what you've seen and what you feel about any or all these movies down in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.